Hey everybody, it's Charlie from Daily Motor, and I am excited for this one. This is a 2021 Can-Am Ryker 900 Ace, and I am going to experience it for the very first time. I have never ridden one of these three-wheeled motorcycles, and I think it's going to be very interesting. I've spent my entire life essentially riding snowmobiles. Got my first one at 2.5 years old, so I am very familiar with the kind of two elements in the front, one in the back riding position. I've only been riding motorcycles, street motorcycles, for about 3.5 years. Had dirt bikes before that, but this is a first for me. I've always been curious about the Spider, and now they have this Ryker, which is cheaper and a little more sport oriented. So yeah, I'm just excited to get on and experience it. I have not driven it any further than just up there. Rocking the 900cc parallel twin, making 82 horsepower. Looks like it's nestled right in there. It's paired up to a CVT transmission, so a little bit more like a snowmobile than a motorcycle in that way. But car tires, essentially. Really practically automotive tires there. We'll talk more about the specs in our full review, but this is going to be a genuine first drive. First ride, if you will. You have a little storage compartment here. So that's nice to have versus a standard bike. Enough room for manual and some other little things like that. Adjustable foot pegs. You can actually lift these up, and then you lift them up and you can slide that to kind of fit what's more comfortable for you based on your height. So that was nice of them to kind of make it a little more friendly for riders of all types. And you can also adjust the handlebars. Just simply pull this up and you can slide those forward and back. So I'm sure I'll be adjusting those a few different times as we get riding. I don't know if the seat can adjust. I think the seat is pretty static. And as you can see, this is only a one-seater, but I'm pretty sure you can get a passenger edition there. So you hop on, sit down. Parking brake is right here. That is on. I'm going to press this button to bring the screen up. And I'm going to turn off the parking brake. No clutch and no brake up here, so I can't rev it out. All the braking is done with your foot. You feel the clutch engagement there. Hey! We'll put it on the lot a little bit more in here. Man, I wonder, I probably can, but I wonder if you can roll one of these things. Like, does the inside tire lift at all? Doesn't seem like it. I'm gonna have to call it. There we go. This was supposed to be a genuine first ride impression of the Can-Am Ryker 900. Unfortunately, we had technical difficulties and neither our video nor our audio recorded when driving from the dealership. So I have spent a good amount of time already on this three-wheeled motorcycle, three-wheeled machine. I put out about 50 miles or so, pretty much just driving it back from the dealership, and I ran a little bit of a errand running today with it. So I'm going to talk to you as though it were kind of my first impressions. We're going to talk a little bit about what it is and what I thought when I first got on it and first started riding it. And then later on this week, at the end of the week with it, I'm going to kind of give you my final thoughts. But I wanted to get this video out quick so that if you all have any questions about it or things you'd like to know or want me to talk about in the final review, I can get to those. Confirmation that your throttle's closed. Starts it up. And no sort of clutch, so as soon as you roll onto the gas... Oh, just kidding, you gotta take your parking brake off. Then once the parking brake is off, you roll onto the gas. And away you go. BRP has been making this powertrain available in snowmobiles for a little while now, and I'm sure some of its other products. It's a very, very efficient four-stroke engine, especially as power sports go. This thing is very fuel efficient, it's fairly low emission, and along with that, it does result in being a pretty smooth powertrain. And that, coupled with the CVT, might make it a little bit dull compared to what some people are expecting and used to from like a motorcycle perspective and maybe even a snowmobile perspective. But it does mean that they can get a lot of power with decent efficiency numbers. That being said, this is quite a bit heavier and there's a lot more mechanical resistance than you get in a typical motorcycle, so efficiency numbers are not as good as a motorcycle. One of my first impressions yesterday was the quickness and the immediacy of steering. As soon as you provide a little bit of input, you get quite a good amount of direction change. Also a good amount of driveline noise and feel you sort of have to acclimate to. But one of the main draws to the Ryker and the Spider and the sort of three-wheeled motorcycle concept is how much more usable it is in less than ideal situations. Whether you're going over bumpy roads, broken pavement, dirt roads, ice or snow or wet road conditions, you don't have the same fear as you do with a motorcycle of wrecking and flipping out in that same way. So you can use the Ryker in a lot more less than ideal situations, places you might not be comfortable with a motorcycle. There are 3 different drive modes. There's Sport, Eco, and Normal. The difference between Sport and Normal is maybe not as dramatic as you might expect. Kind of makes the throttle mapping a little bit more aggressive, but the other thing it does is it greatly reduces the traction control and electronic stability control. And you can actually hang the rear end out with a little bit of counter steer, and that's where the Ryker starts to get pretty fun, is being able to sort of turn and apply some throttle and then counter steer and feel the rear end kick out. I could see going through a lot of rear tires with this. That being said, with Sport mode on, it is also easy to spin out the rear tire from a stoplight. You got the traction control pretty much disabled, and if you goose it right at the beginning, then it's you're going to spin the tire, and sometimes a little bit embarrassingly. The word I kept coming to throughout my review yesterday and throughout the time I've spent on the machine is approachable. I can really see how Can-Am has designed it to be open to people who might not have been comfortable to swing a leg over a motorcycle. It's almost as if this thing is better if you haven't gotten into the world of motorcycle riding, because it is quite different from a motorcycle. If you get on this and expect a motorcycle sort of riding experience, you might be a little bit disappointed. That being said, I do still really appreciate just being out and exposed. I had to go run some errands earlier today, and it was cool to just hop on this. I didn't feel quite as inclined to gear up as heavily as I do for motorcycle riding, and I didn't have to be shifting with my left foot, so I wasn't too concerned about wearing a softer shoe. That being said, you can still get very seriously hurt, and I'm sure Can-Am would like you to wear all sorts of safety gear when you're riding one of these, especially a helmet, always wearing one of those. But it felt a little less arduous, a little bit less like I was gearing up for an adventure just to run over to the store. I was kind of just able to hop on this and start it up and go away. See what I mean? Kind of get an inside lean going. There's certainly some brake biasing going on up front to keep everything managed. This section of road I'm really excited to go down because we ride this section all the time and on bikes and in cars and everything. And I think it's really going to showcase and demonstrate to you all how well this thing takes the bumps. I mean, this is a base model, and look at the front. I mean, that's really rough pavement back there. And it takes these bumps really well. So you still feel the bumps, that's for sure, but the main thing is that I'm not at risk of tipping anything over right here. I can fly around this corner. Oh, woo! Did you see that? They must have gone over a bump and then sort of skidded out to the front. There definitely is a limit there. But anyway, you can go over broken pavement, you can go on to a dirt road or run over some ice or a water patch or something, and you're not going to worry about low siding or high siding something. The mirrors are fairly middle ground when it comes to usability. They're better than my Grom's mirrors, not as good as my V-Strom's mirrors. There's a decent amount of vibration on these little end-tip mirrors, but they're in a good enough position where you can just kind of look behind you and see if there are any headlights, and you're good to go. Again, you can see how Can-Am wanted to make the Ryker and presumably the Spider as well accessible to large amounts of people. You know, not necessarily just power sports enthusiasts, but someone who might have never ridden something like this in their life, and they see one go by on the road and they're like, what is that? I want one. And they could go to a dealership. Plenty of the dealers, including Motor City Power Sports, offer lessons on how to ride one of these things, and you can get an actual three-wheeled motorcycle license from, at least in the state of Michigan, I think a lot of states as well. So it's different than a true motorcycle license. You don't have to drive a manual transmission or anything. You learn on one of these and then you can legally go out and ride one. So everything, the way this thing works is really shows through with Can-Am's intention on making it an accessible, fun toy. You got adjustable handlebars, adjustable foot pegs, a comfortable riding position. It's a unique experience, and that's what I think is kind of cool about it. Pretty good turning radius too. Let's see. Look at that. It does take quite a bit of muscle to turn. I'm surprised that they weren't able to make it a little bit easier. I'd be curious to get Alyssa behind this and see how easily she's able to maneuver it. But you put some body weight in there and you can move it around. And then, click. Reminds you to put the parking brake on. And you're good to go. Cool. Well, we're going to have a lot of fun with this over the rest of the week. So like I said, throw in the comments anything you'd like to know or see. We're going to be doing a little comparison with our motorcycle. We're going to be kind of talking about what it's like compared to a motorcycle, and sort of just who it's for, maybe who it's not for, and what makes it cool. So thank you all so much for watching, and we'll see you on the next one. I'm Charlie from Daily Motor, and as always, drive on.